We'll
Are
do
you
the,
sure?
now
Okay.
it's being recorded.
I'm trying to do a few things at once.
Of course.
I was going to say, I didn't get the notification of the recording, so there we go.
There it goes.
We'll do the roll call. I know David could not make it this evening. Jess,
Here.
Will,
Yes.
June,
Here.
Miss Bloom,
Here.
Miss Martin,
Here.
Randy.
Here.
I know Tom could not make it. I am here, and I probably should start off by welcoming Will Hackler back to the school committee, being appointed to the Townsend representative vacancy. So welcome back, Will.
No balloons, no flowers,
We had it all set up.
no applause. What the heck,
You
Don't
didn't
have
even
it in
get
the budget. It's not in the budget, Will.
didn't even get the cool background yet.
No, we're not yet.
I declined the background, Rob.
Did you?
Our next scheduled meeting of the North Middlesex Regional School Committee will be held at 6 p.m. on Thursday, April 18th. First order of business, we have our consent agenda for approval of minutes, accounts payable warrants, payroll warrants, and a series of donations. So I'll take a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Jess,
Yes.
Will,
Yes.
June,
Yes.
Lisa Bloom,
Yes.
Lisa Martin,
Yes.
Randy,
Yes.
and I will vote yes. So that is unanimous. Thank you. Next up, public communications. We had one person submit for public communications. So Pat McPhee, if you'd again give us your name, address, and then you will have 3 minutes to say what you want to say. So go for it, Pat.
Yeah, Patrick McPhee, thank you for giving me this time. I see you guys going around and going to the communities, especially the superintendent, to present the school budget and the reasons why the increases. And a lot of the reasons is it's understandable. But the problem is the communities are waiting for North Middlesex to complete their portion of the budget so that they can determine what they want to add, i.e., or what they were going to cut that they're going to put back in. So my suggestion would be is that you, and you're not required to, and I know you're not required to do this, is if you could add into your application software, which would be pretty simple and pretty straightforward, the communities as to what they're presently presenting as a budget, so that the people would know before they get to a warrant what their taxes are going to be, whether they can reduce the North Middlesex or reduce their local town budget. The reason why I raise that is you had a 26% increase last year when everybody forced you to reduce, saying they couldn't afford, but those towns were doing 26% increases when North Middlesex only did 6. So people need to see the differences in what's happening there and why it's happening. So if you could add that into your software, I think you'd be able to slow down some of this criticism of your budget. I mean, the budget is needed. A lot of these increases you don't have say on. People don't get that. It's all done by the state. So you need to find some way of presenting it. All I hear from my town is, we aren't presenting the budget until we see the budget from North Middlesex. Well, that ties our hand. And to be honest, I would say to people, decline your budget if they don't get it out soon, if they're waiting for one little aspect. But you guys, if you can add that into your software, would be the best thing. How hard, and I don't even know if it's legal. I was told it may not be. You're not supposed to be infringing on the town budgets, so you'd have to check that. I mean, you guys are doing it. You've done it every year. You cut it back, but then they turn around and they increase their 26%. You were 6.7 to Townsend and Pepco, and they were at 12%. So they can't keep screaming that you're too high when they're coming in high too.
Thank you, Pat. I appreciate the input. I mean, I will say that the superintendent, his admin team, and members of the school committee have been meeting with the towns since I think since last fall, even so.
August.
August. So, I mean, none of this should have been a surprise to the towns. They're free to present the numbers in their budgets as they see fit. So I don't know why there's such a disconnect still, but we can certainly work on ways to improve that communication.
We add it to the software.
Yep.
Because you're the only ones doing the software to tell us what our taxes are going to be at the end of next year, the budgets.
Yep. All right.
You're the only ones doing something to at least be transparent. Not even.
I appreciate it, Pat. Thank you.
I'll leave that alone for you guys.
Thank you. All right. There was no other public comment, so we'll move on. I don't have a specific chairperson report. So Superintendent Morgan, we'll go over to you.
I just have the budget, so I can certainly hold off until a little bit later in the meeting if you'd like.
All right, sure. Then we'll jump down to new business. First item is school committee member roles. So I'll actually turn this over to Randy. Her and I have been talking about a couple ways to improve efficiency and workload with the committee. I know she sent some stuff out to the committee earlier today, I believe. So I know it was kind of short, but I just want to get the discussion going on that. So I don't know, Randy, if you want to share that or if you want me to share it or just want to talk through any of those.
Yeah, if you have it up, that'd be great if you can share it. I forgot to bring that up before I got started here. And I sent that out last night. I do apologize for the late notice with that, with everything trying to go with the budget and all. Oh, sorry, just trying to figure out my computer. So basically what it is what I've been noticing over the years is there's just some more of different types of responsibilities that are coming to the school committee. Some things are increasing in the volume, and we haven't really fully defined everything that all the different roles have. On the left-hand side, you can see the current roles and responsibilities. These kind of have been taken on and not really assigned by the full committee. So the chair creates the agenda, collaborates with the superintendent on the agenda. He runs the meeting, signs any paperwork for the school committee. He's the speaker on behalf of the school committee and answers emails with the public, and he keeps track of the annual pacing items. You can kind of go down and see what the different positions we currently have. I also know that people over the years, myself included, sometimes have more time to be on subcommittees and do more work. Sometimes life kind of takes over. You need to pull back a little bit. So I tried to reimagine some of the roles, spread out some of the responsibilities, including a new position on here that would allow somebody to have a lot of participation, but not in a subcommittee, so they can do it on their own time if they just don't have the time during the day. So you can see as the proposed roles and responsibilities, the chair, I've given a lot more responsibilities to the vice chair, and the chair and the vice chair kind of work together on some things. So policy subcommittee, just some ideas about splitting it, either internally and have a separate person in charge of the 5-year policy review cycle, and then policies that are current that need to be reviewed. Policy subcommittee is becoming quite large with all of those roles. I'm proposing that we go back to separating out the negotiation subcommittee. That is something that happens every 3 years, but we used to have a teachers negotiation subcommittee, and then all other unions. So just non-teachers, so the paras, the secretaries, the custodians, all of the other unions that we have. If you want to go down a little bit, Greg, the new position that I'm suggesting is called a correspondence secretary. And this is somebody that could take over answering emails that come in, keeping track of that. This way, things that happen over the years is everyone assumes that one person, either the chair or somebody else, is answering the emails. Sometimes everybody answers the emails. So I wanted to bring that into one role and have somebody go ahead and work with the community when they send in emails. Also, this could second as the communication subcommittee, where we've been playing with that subcommittee and haven't had a tremendous amount of success going forward and getting things together and people being on that subcommittee. If we just have the other chairs submit things to the correspondence secretary, they can just gather it up, and then we can have a quarterly correspondence out to the public. And then, of course, we have the town liaisons. So I just wanted to kind of start running this past the school committee to see what you think of this, if you had other ideas as far as how to reorganize ourselves in different positions to allow everybody on their own timetable to be able to participate as much as they want. So I'd like to open this up for comments and questions and suggestions.
All right, everybody loves it.
Yep.
Um,
Can I go ahead and assign everybody to something?
Right. I mean, I would like people's input. Again, I think since 2020, I think the volume of communications we get and emails and the, I'll say, the strength behind some of those has been quite a bit. And I mean, that takes up a considerable amount of time. And I first to admit, I don't keep up with it all. There's just no way. But I also think there's opportunity to spread things out and make us a little more efficient, a little more effective. So again, but I want everybody's input on this. It's not going to work if it's prescribed. It does have to be kind of a joint effort. So for those that have chaired subcommittees, for those that have been vice chairs, I mean, or those that have been chairs before, like any input, concerns, you like it, don't like it, like that's kind of, we want to flush that out. So June, I see you got your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Randy, first of all, for putting this together. And I think you're right. Some of the roles are definitely more heavily weighted than others. And as the public can see, when someone joins school committee, you don't just join school committee. There's a lot more to it. The subcommittee meetings actually often take up more time than the actual school committee meetings do. So there is definitely a lot to it. So to try to break it up better does sound good. Along with what Craig said, the correspondence has definitely increased, it seems, in the last couple of years. And I do like the flexibility of the secretary position where it's not regular meetings. But I think that role itself, to maintain all of that, is a lot also for one person. So perhaps that's a role that could be divided by two people without having a whole committee. It might make more sense to have two people kind of field that and to talk out responses to emails and whatnot. That's my only big feedback right now. But also I want to mention that it seems that we'll probably have some turnover on the committee before our organizational meeting in May. So perhaps we may need to revisit this, even if we decide we like it, the roles a certain way. If we have that many new committee members, they might have some input on it too. So we might not want to finalize it until that point, but that's it. But thank you for doing this.
Thanks, June.
Randy, I'm not looking at the document. Well, I can see here, but I don't actually have it in front of me. Did you add the town liaisons to this as well?
Sorry, I was muted. Yes, it is down a little bit.
Okay. Okay, great.
All right, Lisa Martin.
My comment was the same as June's, is with having the turnover come in April. I think we will have to revisit this because some of the new members may not be able to take on all of these things because it is new and they need to get up to date on a few things. before they can step into a role like this.
Anybody else? I guess the one thing I would add is implementation, I think, is one thing, but feedback and trying to get this to a point that people are agreeable is another. So I wouldn't recommend we not make progress because we could use that reason to not vote on anything tonight. So I'd still want to make sure that this at least makes sense to people and that they're not violently disagreeing with it. If directionally it's accurate, we can defer voting. That's not an issue at all. But I think I would like to make sure that we're making progress towards this. So you maybe use this in the organizational meeting as something you vote on right in that meeting. Jess?
I think it's a good idea to split up the negotiations committee. It is very time intensive type of thing. Although it's not all the time, it's a certain parts, you know, some years you are very intense and other years you have essentially nothing going on. So it should also take into balance with other things like finance subcommittee might be busy one part of the year versus, you know, another part. Is also important because it is a huge payload. People do not understand. I know I didn't when I first came on this committee, how much work this actually is and how much time, you know, off the camera we do doing research and talking with people and talking with administration and answering all of these emails and how much work this actually is. So I think it's important to get it as, you know, spread across the board as possible.
Thank you, Jess. Randy?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that, you know, whenever whether we vote on this now, whether we just kind of go to the organizational meeting with this could certainly be a work in progress. I wasn't intending to have this dead set and no changes. We can try and implement parts of this or all of this and then come back to it in 2 months and say what's working, what's not working, or in 6 months, what's working, what's not working. And I'm just trying to, this is part of my push to try and get the school committee working a little bit more efficiently, a little more effectively. And in a way also just to kind of raise the level of the work that we are doing without raising the effort. Okay.
Works for me.
Okay. Any feel from anybody whether you want to sit with this for a little bit longer and take some more time, maybe have some more suggestions for next meeting? We can talk a little bit more next meeting. That work for everybody, especially since I only got it out last night.
Great start, and you know, like everybody said, the organizational meeting where we figure this out is a great spot for it. So,
Okay, all right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Randy, for helping push for this and putting this together. I appreciate it. You're a few years too late, but I appreciate it. Next on the agenda, we have the dedication in honor of late school committee member Susan Robbins. So, Superintendent.
Or just let me unmute. So I just wanted to talk to the committee. Certainly understand that we've tried to stay away from this in the past, but I would like to recommend that the school committee allow for the high school's Performing Arts Center to be named in Susan Robbins' memory. As I emailed the committee recently this week, Susan's commitment to the North Middlesex Regional School District was impressive, to say the least. In addition to her years of service on the school committee, she was a constant and unwavering advocate for our schools, and I cannot think of a more deserving person for the committee to consider for this honor. At this point, I'd like to turn it over to former committee member Rob Templeton to provide some additional background information.
Thank you. So now I'm going to have to try and keep it together here for for this. But yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to come and talk to y'all and see y'all. It's good to see everybody again. Yeah, Susan was definitely special, right? And the passion she had for the district was really crazy. She was interested in all of it, right? Not just the fun stuff or the easy parts, but she was interested in solving problems and always looking to how to help the district, right? Whether it was policy committee, finance committee negotiations, she would have been all over Randy's list of tasks for everybody to do. She loved that stuff, and she was quick to volunteer, fully committed. I think she was on the committee for more than 16 years, and before that she was an active member of PTAs and all of that. So, and really dedicated to the very end. I'm good friends with her husband, and still remember like all the Mondays that she was at school committee and away from family, and really supporting her NM family. It's just pretty. It was pretty amazing. The thing that always really got me, and the reason I liked working with her on it was, she looked at things 58 different ways to try and make sure that she was, not just making a decision based on what she thought was right, but really tried to get impact from all the stakeholders, right? Whether it was, the community, the school, teachers, students, really everything she did was really to drive, progress there. I had many debates with her on, different topics, and always appreciated the way she would run things past different committee members and really try and find the right solution for it. And finally, I think when we think about naming something after somebody, it's a big deal, right? And it doesn't happen often. And I think when I think about how she's impacted the district, sorry, I told myself I wasn't going to get all sappy here, but when I think about that performing arts center and kind of how it's a focal point of that high school, I think she's a great person, and I think she's somebody that models the goals that NM has for our kids, right? She's passionate about her family, passionate about her work, and passionate about supporting her community. And so I think it's a perfect honor for her. I think it's a perfect way for our kids to understand who she was into the future, and hopefully they all can kind of take a little bit of the good work that she did and move on to to bigger and better things that we always want our kids to do. So with that, I'll kind of pull myself together here, and appreciate y'all letting me talk, and good. Hope you consider it, and I think it's a great thing for the district, and proud to be able to talk in her behalf.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you, Rob. Appreciate that.
Yep.
So our just for everyone's benefit, our policy requires that we hold a public hearing for a facility naming request. So we can certainly talk about this here. We can deliberate it. We can't make a decision tonight, but we can certainly have discussion. If anybody's got thoughts they want to share, certainly do that. So Randy, see your hand up.
And before Randy starts, I would add that Susan was a constant rule follower. So she would want to,
there you go.
She probably wordsmithed that policy to death. So we definitely need to follow that policy.
Yes.
I do believe that she was on the policy subcommittee with me when we put that one together and approved it through all the channels. So thank you so much, Rob. What kind words? You leave me a little speechless. She was wonderful, and she was so dedicated to this district. I had many conversations with her after school committee meetings, discussing what went on in the meetings, kind of just seeing the next steps, thinking about things, like you said, from very different angles that you might not normally, to make sure that the whole issue is understood, or the whole situation is understood. She just was, I don't know. It's just, she was wonderful. And definitely very thoughtful, and compassionate for all of the students, dedicated to the district. I am wholeheartedly in favor of bringing this to the community to share with them our ideas of naming the Performing Arts Center after her. I think that is like you said, Rob, it's the focal point of the high school. It's a very deserving of what she did for the district and what the district meant to her. So thank you for bringing this to us.
June?
Yeah, I just want to say that it is an extremely high honor, and that very few people, almost no people, are deserving of that honor. But I do think that Susan absolutely is, and that this is a really worthy and fitting way to honor her memory. So I am in support of doing that.
Anybody else with questions or comments, Jess?
Speaking of rule follower, she was the one when I first came on the committee to give me the Robert's Rules of Order book. And I couldn't be more in support of this choice.
Thank you. I hated that book, by the way.
I was going to say book, actually. So when I first joined, that's where Susan and I found common bond, was Robert's rules and rule following and project management and all that stuff. So it was I guess as we look ahead to, again, having a public hearing, going through that process, I don't think we need a recommendation out of this in order to have that hearing. I think we just have that hearing and then can make a determination at that time. I completely agree with everything, and this is my rule follower policy hat on. So don't take this for anything but that. I just want to make sure that we are setting the right precedent or not setting the wrong precedent. She's completely deserving of the recognition. She contributed far and above, more than probably any other volunteer, at least in recent memory, has done. She was fully dedicated. I think she was an alternate, Rob, on the building committee and did a ton of work with the building project, which is still open, by the way. So I think completely deserving. I just want to make sure that we are doing the right thing. And I don't think the reasons are in question. I just want to make sure we're not setting ourselves up for something that may be hard in the future. So that would be my only input, but fully supportive. All right.
And I mean, Craig, I've been in your all seats, right? And we've debated this a number of times, and I debated it myself a number of times, right, on this, and I just think it's it's kind of extraordinary measures, right? It's just an interesting thing, and when you think about different items, right, this just seemed right to me, right? And of course I'm biased, right? I'm a friend and all of that, but yeah, I think you have every right to consider it.
Oh, absolutely. And I think I know it's a very emotional topic. It's a very topic that's close to many of our hearts. It's very recent. And I want to make sure that 10 years from now, there's no question that this was the right thing to do. Do I believe it is right now? Absolutely.
Sure.
But I got to put that hat on of again, 10 years down the road. Was that the right decision? And you look at fields that get named, you look at plaques that get put beneath trees, you look at TV studios that get named, like all those things that have been done. If we're consistent with the reasons for that, I wholeheartedly support it. I just want, again, just due diligence to make sure that that we're doing this for the right reason. So that's the only angle on that, I guess. All right, so our next step on this would be, if the committee is in agreement to move this to the next step, would be to schedule a public hearing on this topic and hopefully a subsequent vote. And then I see, who is that, Brad? Is that you? Oh, Brad, you have your hand up.
Yes, I just wanted to add, obviously, I've been in other districts outside of NM, and I've worked with many school committee members, and I have never seen the level of service that someone has put forth. I can't think of anyone that can even rival Susan, whether it be in NM or in other districts. And just want the committee, obviously, it certainly sounds like everyone is in support. That unlike a lot of the naming honors that have happened previously, Susan was a volunteer. She was someone that truly volunteered her time on behalf of the students in the NM community. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you, Brad. No, I think that's an important point.
Thank you.
Thank you. Randy, did you want to make a motion?
Yes, I would move that we bring this recommendation for a public hearing.
I'd like to second that motion.
Do we need to set a date for that, or is that just at the next convenient time, and we'll publish it with the required lead times and all that stuff?
I think publish it with the next. It would be nice. Next school committee meeting is a possibility if the timing works on that.
I think that makes sense. Any other questions, comments on the motion? We had Randy and Will was making that. All right, so this is to, we will schedule a public hearing on this topic at the earliest possible time. So Jess?
Yes.
Will?
Yes.
June?
Yes.
Lisa Bloom?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Randy?
Yes.
I'll vote yes. That's unanimous. Thank you, everybody. And Rob, again, thank you very much for bringing this forward and saying what you said about Susan. Really appreciate you stepping up.
Yep. No, thanks for having me, and thanks for considering it.
Absolutely.
So have fun with the budget. We'll see you all next Tuesday night.
You're welcome to stay for the budget if you want. It's always a good time.
I know.
Thanks, Rob.
All right. Thanks all.
Next on the agenda, we have the Student Opportunity Act plan with Dr. Reese somewhere.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to share my screen. Craig, are you able to enable me to share my screen?
I did. You should be all set, Gary.
Okay, I see it now. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob.
So this evening, I'm seeking approval of our Student Opportunity Act plan to submit to the Department of Education as required under the state regulations. What I thought would be helpful tonight is just quickly going through, I know you got the plan, draft plan in your packets, but just going through the background of the Student Opportunity Act and kind of the impetus in terms of developing the plan, the areas that we're focusing on, and why we're focusing on those areas. So the Student Opportunity Act was actually a state law that was enacted in 2019. The focus of this act was really on providing funding to what's turned out to be a very small number of districts that are serving students that have the greatest needs in terms of disparities between specific subgroups. While our district really doesn't receive additional funding for this purpose, there was a provision in the law that required every district to set targets for improving disparities in achievement among student groups and develop a 3-year plan using evidence-based strategies to meet those targets. So a plan was developed 3 years ago, and it's now time for us to revisit our plan and look at the targets and the areas that we're focusing on. Just for clarification purposes, we talk about our strategic plan, and that's our 5-year plan where we're really looking at how are we meeting the needs of all students, whereas the Student Opportunity Act plan is really fine-tuning and looking at specific subgroups that show disparities from our all student population and looking at what specific programs and what specific supports we're going to put in place to address those disparities and try to narrow the gap for the subgroups that have been identified. So the plan has requirements. We have to do what's called an executive summary, just a summary of the plan. We have to do analysis of the data, identify the subgroups that we're going to focus on for the plan. We have to look at setting 3-year targets for improving student achievement. We have to look at the ways or talk about the ways that we've shared information out with families, caregivers, and other stakeholders about the plan and provided opportunities for input. And then looking at identifying the evidence-based programs or strategies, which are called, as we know in education, everyone loves acronyms. So the EBPs to address those disparities in its student achievement. And so DESE has identified a list of specific evidence-based strategies, and we had to select from that list and then talk about specifically what we were doing under that strategy. In terms of timelines, back in December, the state provided initial guidance and training to districts on the development of the 2024 SOA plans. In January, they provided some additional guidance to us and updated the information a little bit. And then what needed to happen next was just working on the plan development. So I know there were some questions last month about some of the disparities, particularly with our special education subgroup. And we had talked about that we're going to be meeting to address those through this plan. And then getting input from the caregivers and stakeholders. The plan is due to the state by April 1st, which really doesn't give a lot of turnaround time. It wasn't until probably the first week in February that the state actually made the online plan available for us to work on within what's called the GEM system, which is the online system that districts use primarily for grant writing and development. It's a new system that they have, but they're actually asking us to work within that system to develop or submit the Student Opportunity Act plan. So it didn't give us a lot of turnaround time. We do have to get approval of the plan from the school committee before submitting it. And so that's why I'm here this evening to share it out and answer any questions and hopefully get approval so that we can be on time to submit. In terms of looking at the data, the state has developed what they call a heat map, and it's actually a public resource that anyone can access. I've got the link here. I've shared the link out in the communications to our caregivers. But basically what this map does is identify what are the areas that there are disparities between for some of our student subgroups as compared to the performance of our all students group. The areas we looked at, or the areas the state was focused on, was chronic absenteeism. So students that have 10 or more absences, or 10% or more absences in a year, regardless of whether it's excused or unexcused. Because even if a student has an excused absence, they're still missing core instruction. And so the state, that's been an area of focus for the state. Looking at out-of-school suspensions, looking at the rate of 9th graders passing all of their core subject areas. There's a lot of research to show that 8th to 9th grade transition, if we can catch those students in 9th grade and help them be successful in passing, the greater percentage of students that pass their 9th grade classes, it's correlated with graduation rates as well. And then looking at dropout and 5-year graduation rates. This document, when you look at it, anything that's in the dark red is an area where there was the greatest disparity for our all compared to our all students. Anything that's in the pink is that group didn't meet the all students rate. Anything that's in the blue is the students actually met or exceeded the all students group. So when we looked at this, the things that stood out for the leadership team were around our English language learners, students with disabilities, and low-income students. And then when we further look down towards the bottom at the 2023 MCAS, we really saw that those areas were having the greatest impact in terms of student achievement on our students with disabilities subgroup. And so that's when we decided that that was going to be the area of focus for the upcoming Student Opportunity Act plan. In terms of outreach to community and stakeholders, this has been shared with the building administrators. They're sharing it with their school councils. Brad is going to talk about it at his next Superintendent's Advisory Council meeting, and I'll be attending that as well to answer any questions. It's been shared with the Special Ed Parent Advisory Council leadership team for feedback and input. It's been posted in Brad's newsletter last week, and it was also included for our staff members. Out of the curriculum office, we do a newsletter every other week, and it was included for our staff members as well to be able to take a look at it and give input. And so the three areas that from the state's list of focus areas that we decided would have the greatest, we felt would have the greatest leverage for addressing those disparities for our special education students were around promoting students' physical, mental health, and wellness, implementing a multi-tiered system of support, which often is called MTSS. And basically what that does is it looks at, you don't want to just say we're going to address the academic needs of students, we're going to address the social emotional needs, we're going to address the behavioral needs. It's looking at that as a system and how do we provide a comprehensive system for supporting all students. And then the other focus area was really using that multi-tiered system to implement academic supports and interventions that provide all students, particularly those students with disabilities, access to equitable and deeper learning and the high leverage instructional practices, which has been an area of focus over the past few years in the district. So that's kind of the brief overview. I'm happy to answer. What we did was we then looked at under each of those areas, what are the specific strategies and approaches we already have in place that we want to elevate, and what are the things that we need to add additionally to really reflect on those areas. In terms of the setting targets, the state does provide us with targets, and we had the opportunity to either go with the targets that the state will be providing or develop our own. And given the fact that there's not really money associated with this, we felt like the easiest way and probably the most valid in terms of looking at data was just using the targets that the state would be setting. Happy to answer any questions, but I would ask for a vote from the committee if possible this evening so that we can get this submitted.
Thank you, Gary. Any questions from the committee? Randy?
How much of implementing this do we need new resources? Do these utilize what we already have in the district and using them a little bit differently or more effectively or with different groups? How does this affect the district?
Yeah, so a lot of it is really around providing, like particularly in that first area, providing some additional professional development and resources and support for staff to be able to meet the needs of the students with disabilities. We also felt like while we identified students with disabilities as the specific target group, that the strategies we'd be using would carry over and support the other groups. When you look at the other two areas, it's really going to be, we don't have a strong multi-tiered system in place. So it will be time working with a committee of teachers and staff members to really develop that MTSS system and then look at ways to then bring it to life and use it effectively within the district. So a lot of it will be, professional development for staff, time for committees to get together to work on the development of these plans.
Any questions from anybody else? And Gary, I think I thought you said this and I may have just not retained it, but this is a plan for just next year, or is this over the next 3 years?
It's focused over the next 3 years.
That's what I thought. Thank you.
I'll make a motion if we're ready. Are you ready, Craig?
I'm ready if you are.
All right. Move that the school committee approve the Student Opportunity Act plan as presented.
Second.
All right, so Lisa and Will. Any other questions or comments from the committee? All right, seeing none. Jess?
Yes.
Will?
Yes.
June?
Yes.
Lisa Bloom? Lisa, if you said something, I did not hear you.
Oh, everything went out. Yes.
All right, sorry, thank you. Lisa Martin?
Yes.
Randy?
Yes.
And I will vote yes, so that's unanimous. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Next up, we have federal grant supply chain assistance funds. I don't know who has this item.
I think this is Nancy Haynes. Is this you, Nancy?
I can probably talk briefly about it. So these funds will be used to supplement the food chain for food service. Essentially, it's funding that is going to be used to purchase local sourced foods and in I think the New England area mostly. So it's a federal grant, I believe. Gary, do I have that right? I believe it's a federal grant, so it's coming through to the district, $78,000 to support the food service and improve on delivery of. And I think a lot of this has to do with the fact that the district has had trouble getting certain products in, and in some areas they've had shortages over the past few years, and still that continues. So this is a way to promote and expand upon the vendors that we're using to support the food service.
Thank you, Nancy.
Yep.
Yeah, just to add, I think one of the other big requirements, I think, is that the foods are unprocessed. So anything significantly processed or already prepared can't be purchased using these funds.
Correct. Yep. Thank you.
Any questions from the committee? This is for us to basically approve the receipt of this grant as required by our policy. So if nobody has any questions, I'll take a motion that the school committee approve the supply chain assistance funds grant in the amount of $78,292.13.
So moved.
Second?
All right, any other questions? All right, Jess?
Yes.
Will?
Yes.
June?
Yes.
Lisa Bloom?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
And I will vote yes, so that is unanimous. All right, that was it for new business. Moving on to subcommittee reports. Any update, Lisa, on accelerated repair?
No.
Ashby Building Committee, June?
Nope, no update.
I actually had an update on the high school building committee that Nancy had forwarded me earlier. We're working to close that out. So I think there were like 7 or 8 items on a checklist just that we had to go through to submit some paperwork and notify MSBA and have them notify us on things. So still some back and forth there, but it feels like it's getting close. And I know I think it was the OPM that sent that is anxious to get that closed out as well. I don't have an update on communications. Finance, Lisa.
Oh, we do have an update there. Would Brad like to go first?
On the budget?
Yes.
Sure. Did you want me to do the full presentation at this point?
If we want to, yes, that would probably be.
Sure. Okay. And I can certainly do that. I just wanted to certainly let the committee know this is, kind of like a 30,000-foot view of the budget. The final budget message, which is a lengthy document, will be posted onto the website tomorrow once this evening's budget is voted on. I also wanted to put out there, we have yet to put up a detailed line item budget at this point because we are still in active negotiations with 4 of our collective bargaining agreements, with 4 of our collective bargaining groups. So if we were to post, several of those lines would be identifiable. So we have to be very cautious in that because we are still in active negotiations. So I just wanted the committee to know that. So as far as FY25, really not much has changed. And I did make a presentation to the Pepperell Council on Aging last Friday, and I have upcoming presentations at both the Townsend and Ashby Council on Aging, and plan to do a Zoom community meeting as well. Also met with a couple small groups just to talk about some of the needs that the district has. So the budget that we are proposing is a level service budget, meaning that we essentially need the money we are asking for in order to continue the level of education that we are currently offering our students. An important note to point out is that our per pupil spending is $18,600 per student. That is from FY 2022, but that is the most recent number that we have. That is $1,535 per student below the state average. So in my opinion, we are doing an excellent job educating our students with the money that we have allocated to us. Overall, our budget represents a 6.27% increase over FY24. And a lot of that is due to new positions to help service both special education and English language learners. I think, again, we've done a very good job managing money in the school district. In the past 5 years, our average increase has been 2.89% on average. So we've done a really good job trying to stay close to that 2.5%. Essentially, an override is required in order to get to the 6.27%. Otherwise, we will be looking at a reduction. And really, the only reduction that we're looking at this point is essentially reducing by 31 staff, and that's an estimate based on salaries and whether or not staff take benefits or not. And that would involve core content teachers in grades K-8, counselors, paraprofessionals, nurses, building administration, and central office administration. The end result of that would be class sizes in K-8 of 27 to 32. That would get us to about $2.2 million in reduction. The only other way that we can feasibly get to the additional 800,000 plus to get to that $3 million reduction would be the elimination of all after-school activities. There's really no other way to get there. And by after-school activities, I'm talking about after-school athletics, after-school music programs and clubs. That would obviously result in a large number of students looking for alternatives outside of NM if that were to happen. The reason I say that that's the second part of the cut is that if the only other real option would be to, instead of reducing by 31 FTEs, to reduce by close to 50 FTEs. And with 31, we're looking at class sizes of 27 to 32. 50 would make it substantially, would make it substantially more difficult to manage our classrooms. A concern that I have is that if we don't have, basically this, we're hoping this goes to ballot in Townsend and in Pepperell in April, after their town meetings, the special town meetings that they've called on. The problem is that if we get into May and we don't have an answer, and then into June and we still don't have an answer, we're likely going to have to reduce staff, or pink slip staff as it's called. And a concern that I have is, because there is such a significant shortage of educators out there, is that if we do pink slip staff, the likelihood of being able to retain them is going to be very slim. An example I would have is that we had to fill a guidance counselor position at one of our middle schools this year with a service. 10 years ago, there would be well over 200 applications for that position. We didn't receive any. Other districts are reaching out, asking for physical education teachers and history teachers, positions that would literally get hundreds of applications. So it's a concern that if we pink slip that number of staff, that they won't be available to us if and when the dust settles, so to speak. The other concern I have is that we may lose some of our veteran teachers as well, who are looking at the forecast of large class sizes and the possibility of going elsewhere where the budget may seem a little brighter. So certainly a problem. And just wanted to put out there, while the budget this year is certainly high, there are certainly things that we are still doing without. We are still without a middle school foreign language program, both in part due to funding and also due in part to the fact of our inability to find licensed staff. We do not have tiered curriculum directors, which most of other districts around us have. We have 2 K-12 curriculum directors. We are in dire need for additional resources for social emotional programming. We do not have a separate gifted and talented program, which our middle school and elementary administrators have been asking for. We're going to lose our academic interventionists that were funded by ESSER. After COVID, we had academic interventionists come in and catch kids up to the best of their ability. North Middlesex, just like all the other districts that are out there, are still trying to catch kids up from that 1.5 to 2 years of remote and hybrid learning, and we're going to lose those interventionists. We really don't have after-school security in place, especially at the high school. The high school is an active, busy building after school, and we don't have a funding mechanism to keep a person stationed there. We're currently finding ways to do it, but it's not sustainable. We're essentially using revolving funds in order to make that happen. But again, that's not sustainable. We've lost librarians at the elementary and middle school, and there's also a need, according to our elementary school, for a K to first grade transitions program. So again, the budget is certainly higher than in years past, but I will say, obviously this year it's high, but I attended the legislative breakfast yesterday for the Merrimack Valley Roundtable. A lot of our legislators were there, and there is a significant concern for FY26 and FY27 as well, because they do not see any real change in public education funding, at least until FY28. So that, coupled with inflation, has put school districts, not just NM, but certainly regionals around us, whether it be Groton, Dunstable, Acton, Boxborough, and then you look at comprehensive such as Westford, all of whom are struggling with our current budget situation. So I would certainly recommend to the committee that we move forward with a 6.27% increase over FY24, and certainly willing to take questions if you have them.
This was also the increase that was approved and voted for in the Finance Committee as a recommendation that we move forward with the 6.27% increase. And I thank Brad and Nancy and Robin and your entire team, Gary as well, for putting together a budget. I know that it hasn't been easy this year, and going forward, it may not be easy as well. And I'm in full support of you guys putting this forward for us. Thank you.
Randy?
Yes, I would like to thank everybody. This has been a very difficult year. A little bit more pressure with the special town meetings coming in earlier than we normally have. This is, you know, we say this every single year, and it sounds like a broken record. But this process is broken from the timing standpoint of what the state gives us for our numbers on what we can count on, and it's unfortunate. But we don't have all of our answers yet from the state of all things to be able to put together a little bit more of an accurate budget than I would like at this point in time. This is the best that we have, and I know we're still waiting on any numbers. Do we have any idea of when some of these numbers might be coming in, when the House might be putting out their numbers, when other numbers that we're waiting for might be coming out?
So yeah, I was told yesterday that the Senate has filed a supplemental budget, but I will not, there's no expected action on that, probably for at least 2 more weeks. I don't know if Nancy has any additional information.
Yeah, what I had heard about the next state budget tier, which I believe is the House, is that we would see those numbers around April 10th, somewhere in that range, to see if there's any changes to the numbers. But I mean, typically in the past years, there haven't been drastic changes. I'm, been always hopeful,
Yeah.
but
No, I know. And unfortunately, the state's having a hard year as well. So those numbers probably won't change much. You're right. But it'd be nice to have some solid numbers behind our budget. But again, thank you for all you've done thus far with the uncertainty that there is.
Yeah, I'll echo the thanks, and I know, Brad, I know you referenced that we're right now, this was the only option we're considering. I think it's important to note that you and your team and the finance subcommittee have looked at numerous other options that just weren't viable to take forward. So I know a lot of due diligence, a lot of back and forth, and hard decisions have been made to get us to this recommendation, which again represents level service. I think that's a point that shouldn't be lost, that this is what is needed to continue to offer what we're already offering our students. So there's been cuts made over the years that have gotten us to this point, and this is not restoring that. This is providing the same level of service. So I think that's another just important thing the public needs to be aware of. Any other questions or comments on the budget? Lisa, do you want me to read that? And you so moved?
I have it. I have it
All
right
right,
here.
go for it.
Move that the school committee adopt the following budgets for fiscal year 2025. Operational budget, $58,780,486. Transportation budget, $4,467,164. Debt service, $4,141,162. Furthermore, I propose that these budgets be utilized to calculate the fiscal year 2025 school assessments for member towns in accordance with sanctuary requirements. Additionally, I recommend the authorization of the use of $2,045,000 from the excess and deficiency account to offset the fiscal year 2025 operational budget. This motion is made with the understanding that these budget allocations are in the best interest of our schools and the communities we serve, aiming to provide quality education while being fiscally responsible. I seek a second to this motion for further discussion and a subsequent vote.
Second.
Lisa and Will. Just, I don't know if anyone else is I think my audio cut out for the transportation budget. It's $4,467,164. I didn't hear the 400,000, so maybe other people did, but in case not, just to clarify that. All right, any other questions on the budget or discussion? Robin, I think we posted this as a joint meeting, did we not? I'm just going back to the agenda.
I did, yes.
Do we have anybody from the town board?
I don't know if the towns posted it, but I posted it.
Okay. I just didn't know if we had anybody from the town on that wanted to say anything. And that would be from town select boards, finance committees. or
Yeah,
town-
Chuck, I can see Chuck Walkovich. Oh, I don't know where he went. He had raised, oh, there he is. Do you want me to let him
Yeah,
talk?
if you could, yeah, anybody from those boards.
Chuck should be ready to go.
All right, go for it, Chuck. If you just introduce yourself before you speak.
I
as
think
well.
he's on,
Might be muted.
I think he's muted.
Chuck Walkovich, Pepperell Select Board. First, I'd like to thank the school committee and the superintendent and his staff for the work that they put into this budget. I realize that it is a difficult task, and I really appreciate the effort that's put into it. Just the one question, what is the total budget? You gave 3 different numbers. What does it add up to? I couldn't write that fast.
Lisa, do you have that figure in the motion?
I don't think we have the total, but I can,
Yeah, I don't think I did the total in the script. I'm sorry.
can add it up real
Actually,
quick.
I have the total. Nancy sent it to me earlier. It's $67,388,812.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Is that right, Nancy?
Correct.
Thank you, Chuck. Did you have any other questions?
I did not.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Anyone else from town boards?
I don't see anyone else from a town board.
All right, anybody from the committee have any other questions? All right, if not, we'll take a vote. All right, Jess,
Yes.
Will,
Yes.
June,
Yes.
Lisa Bloom,
Yes.
Lisa Martin,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
and I will vote yes. So that is unanimous. And again, thank you to everybody for your efforts to get us to this point. Still a long road ahead of us, but definitely appreciate the efforts. Anything else on finance, Lisa?
No, not at this
You haven't been doing any other work? Just about. That's it.
time. Negotiations is next, right, on the
Yep.
list?
Anything with negotiations?
Brad and Nancy are working, and his team are working on it. Brad and Anne Marie, I should say, are working on it.
All right. Thank you. Moving on to policy, Randy. Got a nice list.
Yes. Hold on, let me get this up. All right, so we had this in a couple of different groups just because there were so many and they were from different meetings. And there's one change. It was correct in the packet, but I'll get to that first. First, I will make a motion to approve for first reading. Policy CA, Delegation of Administrative Responsibility, CB, Regional School Superintendent, CBI, Regional School Superintendent, CCB, Line and Staff Relations, CE, Administrative Councils, Cabinets and Committees, and CHD, Administration and Policy Absence.
So move. Oh. Second, or Will got it.
Go ahead, Will. Will's been quick on the seconds tonight. So the new member.
By the way, these are all just from our 5-year review, so these weren't anything that particularly came up for anything in the district. These were just part of the 5-year review that we're going through, which is why they're all from the same kind of in order. as we go through, see if MASC had updated anything, any language, or if anything had changed as far as in our district. Most of these had very minor changes. There wasn't anything real big in this group.
All right, anyone with questions? All right, so this is to approve these for our first reading. Jess?
Yes.
Will?
Yes.
June?
Yes.
To Bloom?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
And I will vote yes. Next.
Okay. In the next group, there's 7, 8, and 9. I'm going to take those together because we actually combined those 3 into CH. And so CH is now policy, development, dissemination, and implementation. And that it was correct in the packet as the one policy. It just got missed being combined here. So I will take those 3 to, off the table, and I will move that we approve policy CH, policy development, dissemination, and implementation for a first reading.
I second.
Oh, I had Lisa Bloom that time. Will was sleeping at the wheel. Any questions or comments on that policy? All right, Jess?
Yes.
Will?
Yes.
June?
Yes.
Lisa Bloom?
Yes.
Lisa Martin?
Yes. Did you hear me?
I did not. I
Sorry.
did it. Randy?
Yes.
And I will vote yes as well.
Okay. And I am taking CHCA and JF off the table. Those were not completed yet, but CHCA-E, I'm looking at that. I'm going to take
Is
that
it-
one off too. Yeah, I know.
Is CL, is it
There's
CL
CL
administrative?
there, but there's the CHCAE. I'm going to take that off right now because I'm not sure that was for first reading. So I'll just bring it back with the CHCA. So the next one will be CL administrative reports. I move that the committee remove or delete policy CL administrative reports. This is one that MASC has been going through and finding that some of these were repetitive and not necessary anymore.
I second.
All right, Randy and Lisa. Seeing no questions, Jess?
Yes.
Will?
I will abstain.
All right, June?
Yes.
Lisa Bloom?
Yes.
Lisa Martin?
Yes.
Randy?
Yes.
I'll vote yes, so that's 6 in favor, 1 abstention was Will. And anything else on policy, Randy?
That's all. We just keep motoring through these 5-year reviews, and we have a couple other new ones that'll be coming to the next meeting, most likely.
All right, thank you. Any updates from the town liaisons? All right, and I believe we don't need executive session. We might have to have our next meeting in person, so I don't have to do the roll calls for every single vote next time.
Are we going to have an earlier meeting than the April 18th one? Or when is the next meeting?
The next one is scheduled for the 18th. When is Pepple move their town meeting to when?
April 8th is their town meeting.
April 8th, okay.
I mean, there's April break in there that we have to consider too, if people.
Oh, that is the 18th, so we should do it the week before then. Right? The week of the 18th is April vacation.
Well, it depends on how many meetings you want to get in, Greg, before.
Well, I prefer if we could just be done now. Peace out, everybody. See you. No, I think we should have one more, especially after some of the town meetings. We should plan to meet regardless, I would assume. And I don't think we want to do it during the vacation week, so we could bump it up to the 11th if that works for folks.
I think that sounds like a good idea.
unless people want to do it sooner. But I think the 11th.
I think the 11th that we may need a reorganization depending on how things happen in the towns.
And we could do for posting a public hearing, Robin, do we need 2 weeks or?
If I have to put it in the newspaper, Jess, does it have to go in the newspaper for public hearing?
I'm not sure about the newspaper, but I think it's a 14-day posting.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're still well within that for the dedication discussion. So if we plan our next meeting for April 11th, 6 p.m. You want to do that in person at the high school? All right. And it shall be in person at the high school April 11th at 6 p.m.
Not the 18th.
Not the 18th,
Not the 18th.
due to a school vacation. All right, with that, if there's no other business, I'll
motion to adjourn.
Second.
There's
I was expecting Will to make the motion before I finish.
I was too.
All right, Jess,
Yes.
Will,
Yes.
so excited about adjourning, Jess. I don't know.
I'm gonna
June,
miss you, Jess.
Oh, I miss you guys too.
there's one more meeting, right?
There is the 11th.
11th.
I'll be there at the 11th.
June, I don't know if I heard
Yes.
you. Yes.
Yes.
All right, Lisa Boone,
Yes.
Lisa Martin,
yes.
Randy.
Yes, yes.
I will vote yes. We are adjourned. I challenge any future committee to have as much fun as we did. So have a good night, everybody, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Have a good night.
Bye.